Now I like the oscillating saw the best because it makes the cleanest cut. You can get precise with it so there's not a huge gap under. But you also just want to make sure that you get it under and you got all that stuff out of there so that it's clear of debris. Now sometimes I like to also cut the sheetrock away. Just a few inches away from the jam, so it makes it a lot easier for you when you're cutting these in. All right, so what I would do is I'd go through a bunch of boxes. I'd open up quite a few. Now we opened up about 10 boxes here. So we split up our patterns into different piles, and now we'll draw from those piles so that we can keep the patterns separate. So I want to start by laying out my first row of planks down the wall. Now we are going to lay these out, and before we make any cuts, we're going to make sure it's straight. So what I want to do is I want to start putting the butt joints together, working my way down the wall. And before I make my last final cut, I want to measure to this chalk line. And I'm going to tell you about that shortly. Now I have that groove facing the wall, so it's going in the wrong way. It would actually be flipped around to go in there this way, but it's not. I'm going backwards. Now I have it tight against the wall here. There's a little bit of a lip on here, but I want to make sure I leave an expansion joint. So I'm just going to mark my plank right to the edge of this groove right here. Right there. That's how I'm going to get my cut. It doesn't reach all the way. I'm just going to cheat it. I just score. I'll go twice on it. Then I just take it, break it right over my knee. And now it's going in there the right way. And you can see we have our cut. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to build a solid foundation, and then we want to secure that so that we can build our plank off of it and have a real easy time with our installation. So I lay out planks, and then once we get those together, we need to have a reference line to see where we're going to start. You can see I measured the room. It was 136 inches, and then I divide that in half, and I came up with 68 inches. Now from that halfway mark of the room, the 68 inches, I lay out plank to the wall to see how large of a piece I'm going to have. You can see it's going to be really small. We don't like that. We can change that by moving this over a half a plank and still have the same size piece on both sides of the room. And it's about 7.5 inches. Well, 7.5 inches divided by 2 is 3 3/4. So now what I'm doing, as you can see, is my line right here is the 68 inches. I moved this line over 3 3/4 of an inch. The half a plank, now it's over on the half a plank. Now I'll pan back over there, and you can see I grew my piece. So now that we've established where we're going to mark the floor, now we want to snap a chalk line on those marks that we transferred on the floor on each end. And now you want to figure out how many planks you are, with the 3 planks that you put down on the floor, how many planks you are away from your line. I'm 6 planks away, and I laid out those 6 planks to get the measurement that I needed, which you've seen. And now I'm measuring away from this plank to the chalk line that certain amount of planks that I figured out. And I'm going to do that all the way down. Now I'm cutting some scrap pieces here because we're going to use these to secure our floor. So I'm going to cut them to fit in between the wall and the plank. And then we're going to screw them down. But we need to make sure we get the floor straight all the way down. So I start at one end, and I'm working my way down, making sure that I'm measuring it as I go and straightening the floor out. And as far as these scraps go, you're going to put one on each seam, and then you're going to put one on each end of the floor. Okay, we're good down here too. I think we're ready to just keep screwing the floor. All right, so now we have this secured. You can see how we did all of that. Now I just want you to know the reason why I do it like this is because this is better than those spacers that you put in the wall, or I've seen people blue tape them. They just don't work very well, but you can see this floor ain't going anywhere. It's going to be a nice solid foundation. Now it's perfectly straight. Our planks are going to go together great from here on out. Now, if you have a piece of plank that you need to cut that's a little bit shorter, like less than 8 inches, I would say, you don't need to move the entire row of plank over to grow that. You can cut that piece, just moisten that joint with a wet terry cloth, and then you can put a little Gorilla Glue in the joint to hold that piece in place so it never comes out. Just go ahead and do that, and everything will just be fine. There's not really any rhyme or reason to our pattern here. We're just trying to stagger it like it's a real wood pattern. You can kind of see how my joints are. I got one here, here, here. And none of these line up, and that's kind of how I like to make sure that I'm doing it. But this plank is really easy to start a row here. I just get it locked into the long part. Now this is one that has the tongue and groove on both the butt joint and the long joint. So you have to slide the plank in. So I like to lift it up and get underneath the board, like back here, underneath the board. And then I just get it locked into the butt joint. Set it down, and you can see right here how we have it a little bit away. Now I just slightly lift it and use this tapping block. Now it's all together nice. This is a tapping block that I'll leave a link for. It's a really good tapping block. It's not a cheap, cheesy one, so it's gonna last you. It's not gonna break during the installation. So I'll leave a link for this. Okay, so you can see right here, I have part of the lip is broken. Now that's not a plank that isn't unusable. You just want to make sure you get anything out. Sometimes when you're using the tapping block, you can break that. But that's still good to use. Don't even worry about it. Just go ahead and install your next plank in. Just get the debris out. You see how it all went together nicely still. You can see right here how we got this right on the chalk line. Pretty perfect there. Now we're getting out to the middle of the room, and by this time for you, you should start really getting the hang of installing plank, and things will go a lot easier for you. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about this plank. We got this from Costco. Now I would have never dreamed of getting anything from Costco that I would put on my floor. I've had members of my membership site asked me about Costco plank before, and I've kind of chuckled at them and told them not to do it. But my daughter brought me to Costco, and we found this vinyl plank there, and I was really surprised that they even carried this well of a brand. This is a Mohawk product. Really nice product, was really easy to install. I would never turn anyone away from Costco again. They did have quite a few products there to select from, so keep in mind to check out Costco. Now, I'm not being paid by them to say this, I'm just telling you. Now, I also gave my son-in-law a little shot here at his first time installing vinyl plank. Let's see how he did. Okay, lift up on the end there a little bit, yeah. Now try to tap it while you're lifting it up.
Middle now. There we go.
Okay, first time installing plank. Are my methods teaching you something?
Yeah, that was easy.
Okay. One thing that you can do is you can take a torch or even a hairdryer and just heat this up. I just go back and forth, so I'm not going to burn it. So if you keep moving it, it's not going to burn it. Just heat it up. Again, like I said, you can use a blow dryer too. I'm just going to cut this on a scrap, the back side of that. Now my knife is going to go through this like it's really, like it's hot, you know, like butter, hot knife going through butter. You can score these off a couple times, then they just snap right off. Now, because I heated it up, I have to cut the pad, but that's how you can cut smaller pieces. And I'm gonna show you one more time with this later on. But again, you can use a hair dryer if you need to. So now we're getting to a point where we're a little closer to the wall here. I've showed this in other videos. You can't get the tapping block really in there very much. So I just like to take a scrap piece, and I'll have the tongue on there because the groove is showing. If this is the groove side, then I would have this small piece have the groove on it. I mean, if this was the tongue on the floor, the other way. Anyway, you want it to slide in there and lock in. If you can't pull these in to get them in, then you can use this scrap. Get your pull bar in there. This is a pull bar. It's got this big knuckle on the end to beat on it, and just hit it in. The scrap protects this from not getting damaged then. And I'm just gonna go down the line and beat her in. And I don't mean beat, but give her a good hit. Get it started so it's somewhat in the joint here. Whoop. So I might need to lift it a little bit to do this. I know my hand was in the way there. But you can see how it's tilted up a little bit. Right here, right now. Now I'll hit it. Now it went flat. And now I can go back if it was still up a little bit and just give it a tap. Just to make sure it's in there nice and solid. Okay, I want to show you how to do this last row right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plank. I'm just going to put it so it's perfectly even with the plank that we're on right now. Now the other thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that this butt joint right here doesn't line up with any joints over here. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to build this row all the way down. I'm just going to put together the butt joints right on top of this plank and just keep getting it perfectly even with this plank the entire way down. And again, just keep lining it up. Now, the next step is I'm going to take a scrap piece of vinyl plank and I'm going to make a cheater board is what I call it. And as all we do is we're taking off the groove. We're going to leave the tongue on because that's going to help us get our expansion joint that we need. Between this 1/8 inch that sticks out and then when I put my marker along there, we're going to get about a 1/4 inch gap. I'm just going to use a utility knife and just cut it off. Pretty simple. So now it's flat. It's gone. And then I'm just going to mark the floor right along it with a marker. Now when I come to a corner like this, I'm going to flip my plank around. Actually, so this is the factory edge on this side, so I know it's square on this side. So I'm going to use that. I bring this out about a 1/4 inch past the corner, and that's how I'm going to get my mark for the corner. And now I just keep marking all the way down. Now the nice thing about this is I keep this about 6 to 8 inches. And the reason why is now I can follow like the waves that are in the wall. So that if it's crooked or if it has waves in it, the board is going to follow the waves. And so now like I have this return here that's going to get covered with a vent. So I'll just do the same thing here. I'll leave like a little gap here you can see. I'll just mark right here where it's going to be on this part of the cheater board. So I know that that's where it's at. And now I put my cheater board against this metal. And you can see how I got it right here. Now this plank that we're using has like it has something on the surface of it that makes so that things don't stick very well. So my marker's not showing up like it normally would. But I'm using a marker, and this actually will come off with denatured alcohol. Now if you're concerned that it won't come off your plank, I'm pretty sure that it will. I've only found one time where it didn't. So just do a test with your plank, like I'm doing on a scrap piece. Take some denatured alcohol and wipe that right off. If it comes right off, then you're good to go to use a marker. If not, then I'd use a pencil. Okay, so I'm coming to the end. We're still on top of this row here. I'm just gonna mark just like I would any other time. I've reversed the plank, I make my mark. Now I'll just pull this out of the way. Now I'll just take this piece, because this jam is in the way. I'm just gonna let it sit out a little bit. It's still gonna get me close. I'm just making sure it's lined up over there. Now I'm just gonna take my cheater board and mark this. Now you can use a jigsaw with this. I use a jigsaw a lot when I'm cutting vinyl plank, but you can also use a utility knife. You can see I'm going down the line. Just going nice and slow. I'm pressing down hard on the utility knife. I'll score it again. And then I'll hit this a couple of times. I'm just gonna heat this up with the torch. And again, like I said, you can do this with a blow dryer too. And just so you know, I'm gonna show you, because right here, this is scrap. See, so you can burn it. But if, like I did there when I just sat in one spot, if you have a hair dryer, it won't do that. But if you just back and forth, now that's nice and soft. I'm gonna cut through this a few more times. Now I'm doing this on top of the floor. You might wanna do this on top of a scrap. And I scored this a few times. I'm just gonna break it. And then I'm gonna start from down here and start tearing it back. I'm going backwards with it. Now I'm coming down to where I have my L cut. I'm gonna cut this a little bit more right here. And you can see, when you heat it up, the pad doesn't like to break like normal, so you can see there, that's how I made my L cut with just a utility knife. So now I'm gonna start putting this together. I got a little spot here where it's kind of going to the jam, so I stop before it, and then I'm just gonna tap it forward. And so now I'm just gonna tap this one in. Now you can see where I'm at here. So you can see how nice that cheater board is, how I got that nice expansion joint there, how it follows the curves of the wall. So now putting in these next pieces, I like to put the butt joint in first. Then I like to lay it down. Okay, so I'm a little tight right here on this, so I'm just gonna cut this a little bit more with my knife. So it pops in. You can see how that went. Now I'm just gonna take my pry bar and I'm gonna pry in to get that to click. Did you hear that click? Now you don't wanna go through the sheetrock with your pry bar, so if you feel like it's weak in a spot, then just use a scrap. And you can just make sure it's all in. You can hear that, how it just clicked in. So now what I'm just gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to use a pull bar. So you wanna get your pull bar in there against the wall, and then you just beat this in. Just keep moving your pull bar down. Down here. Sometimes you gotta work these joints a little bit, get this end in for it to all go in together nicely. I feel like it's up right here, so I gotta push down on that now. You can see how it's coming in nicely there. And you can see right here I'm a little tight. So what I could do here on a spot like this is I could bust away the sheetrock. Scrape it. So then I have that 1/2 inch underneath the sheetrock, And then I can get my vacuum, my wet dry vac, and vacuum that out. So now I'll have my expansion joint in there again. And I'm only showing you this. I'm not saying that this is what you want to go and do all the way around the room so you make a mess, but I'm just showing you that. That's a quick tip. If you are a little tight somewhere, you can knock away that sheetrock. So here's the cheater board. You know how to make it. I showed you how to do it. You're welcome. It's one of the greatest gifts that God has showed me too. Now this carpet is a little longer, so you can actually just slide the plank underneath the carpet and let the carpet hide it and have the gap underneath there. We might put a piece of cord around here. I haven't decided yet, but there's a couple options for you. Anyway, I take a plank and I hook onto this other side. Now I have a little bit over here, so I know that this is in here nice and straight. You can see it doesn't move, right? So I just take this then, I put it on top of this plank perfectly. And now I take my cheater board and I mark this. So now I'm just gonna mark it. And then to get it here, because all I'm gonna do is just run it straight across and just kind of eyeball this and make a mark. You can either use your cheater board or a square and then just finish that mark. I'm trying to figure out this board right here. And so all I did is I took this board right here, I put it across, and then I took another board that was full. I reversed it and did my marking like I showed you earlier. So I marked it, I cut it, here it is. So now what I want to do is I want to take a couple of temporary scraps here and hook them on. Now I'm going to take these boards and I'm going to put them together and hook them right onto this floor right here. Now I'll connect this. So now I took another board and I put it on the other side of those two boards. I connected it to make that so that it was solid and straight. I slide my cheater board under, hit the wall, and then I pull it back a 1/4 inch and start making my marks. Now this was kind of a funky jam, so I had to do a little bit of creative marking here. You can see what I'm doing here and how I'm figuring the edge of the jam right there. Now I'm using the cheater board to extend that out to where that mark would be. There's another notch in there that I had to mark. So again, this was kind of a funky jam, but you can see how this will work for you to be able to use the cheater board. Now on this side, it was nice and straight. I just took the cheater board with the factory edge, squared up against the plank and made that mark. And now you can see how this is going to fit in this jam once we put it together. So the cheater board really is going to be your best friend on your vinyl plank installation. Now you can see how nice this floor really turned out when it was all done. And again, I just am shocked that this is from Costco. Really a beautiful floor. Also want to show you how we staggered the joints inside this hallway, this short hallway. You want to make sure you get disciplined and do that. So this video really had a lot packed in there for you, and I hope that I'm helping you. And I would just ask that if you liked this video, if I helped you at all, that you would hit the like button for me. It will really help me out. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see some more of my videos, and then hit that bell if you want to be notified when they're going to be coming out. Now I had just put out a bunch of new videos. You can go to my YouTube channel and check those out. I'll have some links for those here at the end of this video. A really good one for you to go and see is incredible tips for how-doers installing vinyl plank for the first time. This also will apply to laminate installation, so go check that video out. That'll really give you a lot more tips even than what you've seen inside this video. I just again really want to thank you for watching my videos. I want to pray for you that you and your family are blessed. I pray for blessings on you, and I pray that your projects are blessed and that they go well and that you don't have any problems with those. And I just pray for that in Jesus' name. I want to say God bless you. Thanks for watching my video. And again, I am Joe Latender. Thanks for watching.
Oh, so that's how you do that.